All right, we've got Joe Silva leaving the UFC. So Joe Silva has been with the UFC for basically not the entire time, but almost the entire time the UFC has been around. And his main role, I don't know all the ins and outs, so I'm sure someone's gonna put some stupid comment, but he basically was a matchmaker or had a huge part in who fights who in the UFC. Now he's leaving the UFC. I actually think this is a good thing. I don't really care if it's a good thing or a bad thing, and I kind of think it's a good thing though. But I never really liked the UFC. I never liked their matchups. I never really liked anything about the UFC. I've said that before. I liked other organizations better. Back in the day, I used to watch, Bulldog fights and, Pride and, all these other organizations. Strike Force, I really liked Strike Force. I was a big fan of Strike Force fights. They were just so much more exciting. Like when Strike Force was thriving, the fights were so much better. And I think the fighters were better too, and all the top guys, all the champions, not all, but for a while it was like almost all the champs in the UFC were Strike Force champions. Now you got Eddie Alvarez, he's a champion, he was a Bellator champ, and you got guys like, Conor McGregor, he was a champion in another organization. So it seems like all the champs in the UFC were champs in other organizations. So, you could never say, oh, we have all the best fighters when, go get in a time machine and go back 4 years and say all the best fighters are in the UFC. It's like, no, they're all in other organizations. You should see this girl that just walked by. I see this girl walking her dog like every day. Same time. Anyway, so I don't know that the UFC being sold, it's either going to get a lot better or it's going to go bankrupt. It might go bankrupt. They're paying guys millions of dollars. The UFC, they didn't really pay fighters the way they should, but you look at Strike Force paying for Fedor and paying out all this, and they went under and all this. They got bought out by the UFC. I don't know all the details on that, but these other organizations basically all are extinct, and UFC was always able to survive. So that might have been part of their success, not paying the fighters too much money. But anyway, matchmaking in the UFC, I always thought really, really was bad, because I always thought they just took fighters and just completely ruined them. Like they ruin everybody's record. You get good fighters that go in there, and I don't think it's true to who's the best fighters. So they'll have somebody ranked number 3 fight ranked number 1. Okay, now he's coming off a loss. Then they'll have him fight somebody that's ranked number 2. Maybe he dropped down to number 4. And they get kind of stuck in a rut there. They'll just assume that these are the best fighters in the world because of their rankings. They're like, well, he lost his last 2 or 3 fights, but we still have him ranked at number 5 because he fought this guy, and he fought this guy, and they must be the best. That doesn't mean that they're the best. I always thought, take BJ Penn for example. BJ Penn losing, losing to Nick Diaz, and then he just goes on losing all these guys. Then he loses to Frankie Edgar and loses to Rory McDonald, and these guys destroyed BJ Penn. But he could always say, well, look, I fought Rory McDonald in my last fight. I'm still a top fighter. Yeah, I lost, but I fought Frankie Edgar. And I think that's why these fighters, but they're losing. So in other words, if BJ Penn is not doing good, say he lost to Nick Diaz, why not put him against an entry-level UFC fighter? That's what I think they should be doing. Take somebody that, if they're ranked number 3 or number 4, something like that, and they lose a fight, have them go against somebody that's ranked 20. Okay? Because it helps size us up where these guys are. If you just keep putting them against top guys, you could put me in against top guys, and I could lose, say I go 2 fights and I lose 2 fights. You know, does that mean if they're ranked number 1 and number 2, does that mean I'm ranked number 3 because I lost to them? No. That's what's stupid about it. And literally in between 2 or 3, 4 fights, like literally years can pass. Years. I mean, this entire sport changes very, very fast. So I think we kind of been cheated as fans. I know well, not me. I've been fans of other organizations, but I think a lot of people have been cheated by that type of thing. You give these guys, I mean, to this day, they've got like these old men. They have old men in there. They have Dan Henderson's going to fight Michael Bisping in a title shot. Dan Henderson's not one of the best fighters in the world, not even close. He's off steroids. He's an old man. You know, he could beat Michael Bisping, but you know, it's really stupid. The matchmaking really stinks in the UFC. Like, in other words, if you take somebody that's ranked number 3 and they lose, you put them against somebody that's ranked number 20. They should win that fight, but they might lose. And if they lose to somebody who's ranked number 20, who basically never even heard of, or most people have never even heard of, now you're going to know who that other person is. Well, you still know who the other guy was because he was ranked number 3 in the world. So you know his name. Maybe he can come back in his next fight. But now you gave somebody that's down here at 20 a chance to be a star. And they are a star now because they just beat that person. Everybody knows who they are now. Instead, you have, you know, number 2 in the world fighting number 3 in the world. And you know, basically one of those guys is going to get a loss on their record, okay? And then you got somebody that's ranked 20 fighting somebody that's ranked 30 or whatever it is, and you don't even watch the fight. You don't even know who these guys are, and you don't even care. You know, they got all these fights with, I mean, there's people in the UFC, I don't even know who they are. Never even heard of them. I mean, I don't know every single person, whereas I think it would be, you know, and you have guys on winning streaks that are ranked like 20, 30. You don't know what level they're at. Like, they've never lost. Like, maybe they're better than the guys that are ranked number 1. The way you find out is by putting these guys in between. When they lose, putting them against lower end fighters. And it like I said, it bring more attention to the fight. Take somebody, like I said, you've never heard of them, but they're in there against somebody that you've heard. And ultimately, I think those guys would lose most of the fights, but not all the time. It would help weed these cans out of the top rankings, because these guys get in the top 10, and it's like they just stay there. You know, even though they're old and they're not even winning, and they got them in the top 10. It's like, man, you know, there's so many other fighters, and I think that's more how the matchmaking should go. And then also, ultimately, a lot of those fights, somebody up here fights somebody down here, they will win. But the thing is, if somebody that's ranked down there, they're going to learn from that experience. They're going to learn from that fight. And then plus, people will know who they are, and that's a big part of mixed martial arts. People need to know who you are. People just don't know who these guys are, and it's just, nobody cares. And it just makes it really boring. It's like, you know, it's like, okay, I got to watch 2 guys fight that I both like, so, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I got 2 guys that I like, and I got to watch one of them lose. That kind of stinks, you know. I like both these fighters, you know. And it's just, so the matchmaking, it really does kind of stink. I always thought it was really pretty lame in the UFC. So hopefully to get a lot better. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. If you just click on this, please subscribe to my channel. I never say that, but starting to get more subscribers now, you know. And also like the video if you watched it. I'll see you guys later.